Started. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the joint meeting of the City Council of the City of Moreno Valley Community Services District, City of Successor Agency for the Community Redevelopment Agency of the City of Moreno Valley Housing Authority, Moreno Valley Public Financing Authority, and the Board of Library Trustees. The City Council does receive a separate stipend for CST meetings. I now call this meeting to order on March 1st, 2022 at 6:01 p.m. Councilmember Delgado, would you lead us in the pledge?
I'd be honored. Please stand. Place your right hand over your heart. Repeat after me. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you so much for that. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Yes, sir. Councilmember Cabrera.
Here.
Councilmember Marquez.
Here.
Councilmember Delgado.
Here.
Mayor Gutierrez.
Here. Staff introductions, please.
Pat Jaquez-Nare, City Clerk.
Stephen Quintanilla, Interim City Attorney.
Brian Mohan. Go ahead, Mike.
Manager.
Brian Mohan, Assistant City Manager, Chief Financial Officer, City Treasurer.
Manuel Mancha, Community Development Director.
Michael Lloyd, Public Works Director, City Engineer.
Jeremy Bubnick, Parks and Community Services Director.
Captain John Salisbury, I function as the Chief of Police.
Okay, we have the Fire Chief.
He's actually on the attendee side.
Could we let him in?
He's there now.
Okay. Hi, Fire Chief. Jesse.
Oh, sorry about all that. I wasn't on the right side, so
Hey, no worries.
Fire Chief.
Okay, awesome.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So I think we got everybody, right? Okay. Okay. All right. We do take public comments at this time on items on the agenda, and non-agenda items will be taken up at this time. Any person wishing to speak should address the mayor and the city council on any item. Madam Clerk, how many speakers do we have on this one? And I know we're going to have another opportunity to speak.
14.
Okay. We'll go ahead and allow speakers, and we'll take 3 at a time.
Okay. George Haig, followed by Elmer Thomas and Fred Banuelos.
Okay.
I don't think George is in, so I'm gonna let Fred talk.
Sure.
Mr. Banuelos?
Yeah, audio check. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Sir.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
All council members and staff are essential. Our council meetings always need to be available for people to speak in person. If the general public wants to speak via Zoom, they should also have an option for them. Next subject. Elena Baca Santa Cruz is running for council. She has a Facebook post on her page that says, "We need to raise children with respect for the law, you know, so they don't grow up to be cops who kill unarmed black men." What Elena needs to understand is that people that are unarmed can kill you. If people come into contact with law enforcement, they should comply and follow instructions for their own safety. If people have contact with bad cops, deal with that after the situation. Compliance is important, and again, comply for your own safety. What concerns me is there are people and groups that are endorsing Elena who are associated with law enforcement. They need to have a serious conversation with her about her post, and she needs to hear their side of the story about her post. And the last thing is B6, Bravo 6. I haven't had time to research it, but it's a landowner position something that annexes certain parcels into Community Facilities District 2021-01 and it amends map. I haven't had time to research it, but maybe I'll learn more about it later today. And if not, can somebody speak about it in plain English to let me know what that's about? Thank you. Moreno Valley first.
And we'll address that item, okay? Thanks. Next speakers.
Elmer Thomas, followed by David Zeitz and Susan Zeitz.
Hello, testing.
We can hear you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, first, I'd like to remind folks that if you'd like to support Ukraine, you can go to globalgiving.org, unicefusa.org, or nrc.no, or you can just check out my social media, either Facebook or Twitter. I have the links there, so you could directly go to where you could directly support Ukraine. Secondly, I'd like to say, once again, we need to recall David Marquez. I really don't understand why he's allowed to still be there. He's an embarrassment to our city and our district. He barely knows what to vote on, like that classic moment when he voted Jimson off. You know, he couldn't hardly even believe it himself. His blatant disregard for the law, the Brown Act violation, his abuse of power, his attempted abuse of power. And, you know, last time he said he'd be out there every morning driving around, picking up trash and eucalyptus. You're not doing a very good job of that either. I'd also like to remind folks that we should also recall Ulysses Cabrera for also a Brown Act violation, extreme lack of judgment, trying to endorse Marquez as a mayor pro tem is a complete embarrassment. It seems like he's trying to be a selfie champion or something, or a credit taker. I don't know. But, you know, he says he has a degree in political science, which is even more embarrassing to me. It's like, you know, did you forget your ethics class or something like that? In any case, for District 1, please support Elena Baca Santa Cruz, and I yield the rest of my time. Thank you.
David Zeitz, followed by Susan Zeitz. Mr. Zeitz. *6 to unmute yourself. Susan Zeitz.
We can come back to them if, I know sometimes they've had some technical. Oh, there they are. I heard them.
Hello?
Okay.
Ms. Zeitz? Mr. Zeitz?
Okay, we'll just come back to them.
Nanette Plasencia? *6 to unmute.
Good evening, Nanette.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi, good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Tonight, I'm just making more of a comment about something I wanted you all to be aware of. I wanted to let you know that on January 23rd, I had filed a report with the Riverside County Health Department. And I filed a report with them to let them know that there was an outbreak going on in the facility I work in Moreno Valley. I don't live in Moreno Valley, but I do work in Moreno Valley. So I filed the report, and then on January 23rd, when I filed it, they said that they would send the information to the city of Moreno Valley, the mayor and the city council members, to let them be aware of what was going on. On January 31st, I had sent a personal email out to each, to the mayor and each city council member, just to let them be aware of what was going on in the report I had filed. From there, I had received a email back from, it would be Councilmember Ulysses Cabrera. Sorry if I said your name wrong. And he thanked me for bringing it to his attention. And then I received another one on February 17th saying that he would forward the information to his staff to see if they know anything about it. Yesterday, I spoke with the Riverside County Health Department. Her name is Lucia Del Toro. She told me that she sent all information to the city council and mayor and that they are supposed to look into it, but she would also look further into the situation. I just wanted to say that it's very concerning to me because I feel that nothing has been done about this life-threatening situation that is happening in my warehouse. And I feel, there's hundreds of outbreaks going on in my facility. It's been going on for months now. And I just feel that there is no one to help us. I constantly receive messages on a daily basis, they're letting me be aware of the situation that's going on at work. But I just feel that we need support for the workers who work in the city of Moreno Valley. And I think that this needs to be taken more seriously. And, something needs to be done to keep the workers, safe in the city of Moreno Valley where we work at. So I would please greatly appreciate it, the urgent response and investigation, into this. Thank you.
Thank you, Nanette. And we're going to move on to the other speakers, but we'll open up a CRN to follow up on that. But the county is the lead agency, especially with outbreaks. So we'll follow up on that. Okay.
Susan Seitz. Susan Seitz.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Hello?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. This is open agenda, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I am asking that you please appeal the Planning Commission's decision to approve the conditional use permit for the AM/PM fossil fuel station last week north of the 60 on Redlands Boulevard, which already has 3 stations. The County of Riverside says it's ready to approve of our city public septic system, which they haven't even got approval from them yet, or for the Santa Ana watershed system. A fossil fuel station should never be considered where it will use public sewer systems, as toxins that go into a septic system end up in our groundwater, period. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. The majority of people realize that if anything necessary goes to a capacity septic system, it is then a toxic well. Whereas toxins that go into a city sewer through a processing plant's filtration system, where the toxins are filtered out, they won't end up in our groundwater. EPA strictly regulates the disposal of unused cytotoxic substances and cytotoxic substances at a hospital in container or instruments that are contaminated. When 85% of the people go home after having chemotherapy, for the next 2 or 3 days, they are excreting relatively high amounts of cytotoxins in their urine and feces, which all goes directly into our groundwater through the septic system because that's how they work. I believe that the risk far outweighs the need for yet another fossil fuel station in such close proximity to the Eastern Municipal Water District's booster pumping station located at the southeast corner of Redlands Boulevard and the undeveloped Avenue that provides adequate discharge and conveys water to the existing 2080 pressure transmission discharge pipeline within the public right-of-way right there. This project kind of wraps around that pumping station. What if a disaster, seismic, industrial, accidental contamination, accidents, maybe somebody would into a people run into fire hydrant, buildings that covers over the gas station. They're talking about having it big enough that semis can go in there and fuel up. It's also right at the gateway of our city and is going to be very unpleasant to look at. I have lived in homes with a septic system since 1971, the last 38 years here in Moreno Valley. And we know, we give the talk to anybody who comes over to our house about what and can't go down or dress into the toilet. There's no way you could do that for a public septic system. So I really think that, and even the guy that the developer said that it's not his first choice either, but there's a lot of places you can put a gas station, not that we really need another one, but at the gateway of our city, that's the first thing people are going to see, and it's the public system, which is not a good plan. So thank you.
Hello, are you calling for David?
Yes. Yes, sir. If you turn off your camera, it's easier for us to listen.
I'm here. It's just,
You might want
we're good.
your internet. I think your internet might be slow. I don't know.
Oh, with no doubt, we live in an area where it is. I do appreciate the but yeah. Okay, turn off the video and it might work faster. Okay.
Don't touch it. You might mess up the whole thing.
All right. Is that any better now?
Yes.
Okay, we'll go that route then. Okay, I just have a couple of things I want to mention. First one is just basic etiquette. I mean, we're all adults here. We come out and we state why we want or do not want a particular project done in our area or other areas. We state our facts. Yeah, I know emotions can get the better of us at times, but it just seems like that whenever certain people disagree, they don't come up with facts. They just start calling names and saying that we're stupid or we don't know what we're talking about. And that, to me, all that does is make that particular group of people look stupid because they have not done their homework. They have not found out why, so I state there's 1 million trucks going through. Well, if you disagree with that, look it up, find out how many actual trucks are going through and correct me. I have no problem with that. Now I got to think of my second thought. Sorry. I hate when you have brain fades like this when you reach a certain age. But I'll just leave it with the one. It's just basically just good manners, being adults, things that our parents have taught us over the years, that you just, when you're out in public, you act civil, and you have your passions. Oh yeah, I remembered what it was now. Everybody keeps yelling about this Brown Act, which is not the first one that our city council has violated and has had to get lawyers in court and everything else involved. But if you look up what a Brown Act actual criminal element of it is, how many people have not stopped at a red light turning right today? How many people have sped over 10 miles an hour over the speed limit? Your particular criminal act in that is a higher or a worse criminal act than the Brown Act. In fact, your fines are higher. You can actually go to jail for that, where you can't for the Brown Act. A Brown Act is basically a law that keeps people reminded and allows a legal course to cover things. It's crazy. We keep bringing this up and up and up. Yeah, I don't agree with what they did. It's been rectified. It's done. And I'm sure most of the people that are speaking, still yelling that they're criminals, have basically broken worse laws today just driving around town. So, okay, it's done. Let's get on. And then we have one other speaker that keeps bringing up something that happened with Mr. Marquez with an accident or something. Take him to court. Let the courts figure it out. If you did take him to court then lose, then be a good loser and let it go. So I thank you for your time. Have a good evening.
Thank you, sir. City Clerk, next 3 speakers, please.
Bob Palomares, followed by Joanne Steffen. Bob?
Hello?
We can hear you.
Hello?
We can hear you.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Good evening. First of all, I, as always, thank police and fire for the job they do. And I just wanted to send my condolences to the family and to the Sheriff's Department for the loss of Lieutenant Taylor, who passed away a few days back. and also send prayers for all of our active duty and reserve military, and hope that they might not have to be used in the coming near future with what's going on in the Ukraine, and just pray that it ends quick. It's not a good situation, and I heard that the city of Moreno Valley is going to be putting the M in the colors of the country of Ukraine. So that's a good thing. And let's just keep everybody in prayers, military and those people in that country, because there's a lot of suffering going on. And also, I just wanted to thank my council member, Mr. Delgado, for the fine work that he's been doing. He just doesn't talk a lot, but he gets the job done, and I can appreciate. So thank you very much, Ed. Good night.
Joanne Stephan, followed by Don Martin.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Just to refresh comments made by Cabrera at the last meeting, you, Cabrera, said people are lying about you. Well, you can say that, but why don't you prove it? I have seen several of your 460 reports, and I am amazed at how inept they are, showing yet again that you can never be mayor. You think that by studying political science qualifies you to run for mayor? Really? I know people who never attended college, and they are some of the smartest people I have met in my life. You will not be elected mayor, no matter how many photo ops you take and how much you talk at meetings. Get over yourself, because you look very arrogant up. Look in the mirror and ask yourself, am I being honest, not just to myself, but to the residents of Moreno Valley? Or am I just in it to win it at any cost, no matter what? Faith is a wonderful thing. I rely on it every day. So stop using it for your own personal gain. It is disrespectful, not only to me, but to a lot of the residents in Moreno Valley. We have seen this firsthand when you sit up there in the podium and use that regularly. Regarding redistricting, we need to hold off on adding more seats. The special election next month will hopefully give us Elena Baca, a true representative for her district, and Moreno Valley, not someone who is contriving for their own agenda like LaDonna Jepson did when she knew she was placed there illegally. Time after time, Elena has demonstrated her leadership capabilities, and she will be amazing in that seat. The election for mayor is in November, and going forward for our city will not be to elect Ulysses Cabrera. The city has been through too much this past year to suddenly start adding seats and then elect people that have no business being on the council. What we have had to put up with are people like Marquez, Cabrera, and Jepson, who basically didn't know the laws, and we were almost being sued. Let's not change the boundaries at this time either. Let's wait to decide on this matter and in the future. I want to thank the mayor, Councilman Delgado, my councilman, and the city staff for working to make our city something that we can be proud of. Remember, it's the quality.
Thank you.
Don Martin. Mr. Martin.
Hi, good evening. Okay, there's a couple of things that I'd like to speak on. One is regarding the Amazon concerns by the other resident, the breakout. Can everybody hear me okay?
Start the clock again, Kelly.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so regarding the Amazon breakout, in all seriousness, the city needs to stay out of private businesses. Let's not do anything with that. If that breakout was that serious, that it's been going on for months, we had hospitalizations or anything like that, I'm pretty sure that the facility out of risk would take the necessary precautions. And this individual sounds like they've been working there for these couple of months that these outbreaks have been going on. So let's just do the right thing and allow private businesses to operate just as they do and not involve cities with that. Another thing is regarding last week, regarding the dispensary tax reduction. I got the feeling that some council members were kind of against the marijuana dispensaries, and that's perfectly okay. I would just ask everybody to think in regards to business and how lowering taxes, and we don't necessarily have to lower it to that 3%. Maybe we can meet in the middle on this, but by lowering this, we'll invite businesses and want them to keep continuing to do their businesses here in Moreno Valley, and they bring a lot of revenue to other businesses as well. They oftentimes have security. So in regards to the approval of them, when we were speaking about the Day Street one, I think we should do that as well. We should be focusing on business growth. So if the state of California has, legalized marijuana and the city of Moreno Valley has invited these businesses, let's look on ways to expand that. And that doesn't mean just opening up new dispensaries. There's other facets of the marijuana industry that we can capitalize on as a city and additional tax revenue that can be brought in to help fund the programs that people want, like additional fire and police and so forth. In regards to the AM, PM and all that, we've already passed that with the planning commission did that last week. I say just push through with that. It's a great idea. It's going to bring additional revenue for the city. It's needed in that area for the residents. It reduces conjunctions and traffic and so forth. So let's expand on that. And pretty much that's all I have for today or this evening. Thank you all.
Who are the next speakers? City Clerk?
Tom Gerald, followed by Luis Palomares and Elena Santa Cruz.
Okay. Tom? Okay, going once. Tom? Okay. We'll
Elena, Luis Palomares.
Okay, Luis?
He just stepped away.
Okay, Elena, go ahead.
Oh, me? Oh, okay.
We'll
Good evening.
We'll come back to her.
Okay, absolutely. Good evening, Mayor, Councilman, public. My name is Elena Baca Santa Cruz, and I'm running for District 1 here in Moreno Valley. I wanted to share that we're overjoyed with the city's decision to shine the green and yellow over the M this night and tomorrow night in support of all of those in Ukraine. I want to remind that, our citizens that we're a military community here. So there's a lot of moms and dads going to bed each night not knowing whether their sons and daughters could possibly be deployed. So we need to remember to keep them, their families in our prayers, and just keep trying to pray for peace. We've been out there working the districts. There's a lot of people who are concerned about many things, and I really appreciate everybody coming over to the office to watch the meeting. Also for everybody that's joined the campaign, we really appreciate everybody's contributions, both financially, those working the precincts. We just really want to say thank you to everybody. We hear you, we hear the concerns, and we just want to thank the citizens who have been coming out and letting us know what it is that the direction that we want to move this city forward. We have heard you, and we plan to work on these issues. I'll yield my time. That's you.
Great. So
Luis?
Yes, Luis Palomares, community activist.
We can hear you.
Okay. I just wanted to say about the the M being lit up in the yellow and the blue, that's wow. I'm so happy about that because we need to support 100%. We got to support the Ukraine people. You know, they're fighting against it's like a David and Goliath almost, because you know Russia's got everybody in the mix here and their grandma, but yet you know a lot of the nations are coming and standing with Ukraine. I'm so glad about that. As far as the sites again, you know, they're talking about the gas station that's going to go up. They already, you know, this just went to the planning commission on Thursday, and they're already bashing it. It hasn't even came to the council yet, and they're already bashing it. They don't want nothing out there because they live out there, and they don't want nothing there. Come on, go move to Sun City. Go move to Texas. What did you think the city wasn't going to grow? It was going to stay the same forever? We're not in the days of Noah no more. Hey, we're going forward. We're in the 21st century here. So that's what I wanted to talk about. And as far as the Caprera thing, you know, he closed his statements last time with, a bunch of nonsense, you know, saying, it's lies, it's this, that. You know, come on, Cabrera. You're the liar. You're the liar. Why don't you be honest with the community, the people in Moreno Valley, the taxpayers here, and tell the truth? But you're all over campaigning. Every other day you're out there with your photo ops and you're campaigning like you're the mayor, you know, like you're the mayor already. Hopefully that never happens. You know, we don't want you in there, and you're not in touch with reality here. You're really not in touch with what's going on in our city as far as, you know, you're all over campaigning, photo ops and everything. But come on, you violated the Brown Act, and we're going to talk about it again. Yeah, you violated the Brown Act, and you haven't even apologized for what you put our city through back then in October. You don't even say, I was wrong. Let me fix it. Let me do this. You didn't do anything. You and your pal next to you, David Marcus, you know, you used each other in that coup you had. And it's too bad and it's too sad, but we, the people of Moreno Valley, had to pay the price for your stupidities. Because like I said, all the way up and down California, you know, they're saying, what the heck's going on in Moreno Valley? What's going on there? Come on. I go, well, you know, it's these two clowns that are on the council that all they are, they got their own personal agendas, and that's all it's all about, them all the time. And it's so sad, but hopefully we get some Lena Baca Santa Cruz in there, and it turns around for the better. And thank you, Ed, for what you do. And thank you, Mayor, for what you do. So here we go. Thank you so much.
The last two speakers are David Laratelles and Roy Blecker. Mr. Laratelles.
Thank you. Hello, Mayor, Council, public, staff. I wanted to address the council comments of Ulysses Cabrera at the last meeting. He claimed that it was a lie about his FPPC violations. Here are the FPPC violation numbers that we are lying about. They are 2018-01120, 2018-01120, and 2020-00453. These are the two case numbers with the Fair Political Practices Commission that are violations, that are alleged violations, and they are open against Ulysses Cabrera. The way the public can do this is that luckily there's Cabrera has no transparency porthole. The FPPC does. It's called a transparency porthole. Go to the FPPC homepage, go to transparency porthole and type in Ulysses Cabrera, and you will come up with these two case numbers. Now, one of them was from 2020, and it was when you failed to file your Form 700, which is the way that you report economic interests. And you talk about transparency, and you did not file the report on your economic interests? That is amazing to me. And it's amazing to me that you continue to run for mayor after doing that. The other one, and you did end up filing that after the complaint was filed. After the complaint, just like you did you did with the appointment of LaDonna Jensen. You only did the right thing after you were caught, after you were threatened with a lawsuit, after the city was threatened with a lawsuit. This is a pattern for you. You only do the right thing after you're caught. And the second one is record keeping. That is the one that is, and both of these are open and pending. I understand that you filed your 700. The other one on your record keeping is from a campaign in 2017. The complaint was filed in 2018, and that is still open and pending. Anybody can go to the FPPC website, go to the transparency porthole, type in this baboso's name, and you will find this. You will find it yourself. So it is there. It's not a lie. Cabrera, you're a lie.
Roy Blecker? Mr. Blecker?
Do you have a copy?
Yes, we can hear you.
Before the time starts, I want to get a point of order. Is the public going to be allowed to comment on consent calendar items per Council Rule and Procedure 242?
It's not due to council rule procedure. I'm going to allow it for this meeting and the meetings that come.
Thank you. So I will reserve my comments on A7 till that. I want to state, and the city attorney has been very professional, helpful on the meetings being closed, but I will point out the Gestapo down in Alessandro, otherwise known as Moreno Valley Unified School District, has kept their meeting closed for 2 years. The County of Riverside, sans for 1 or 2, has kept them open. This is part of the problem we have. Look at between the Planning Commission and this, when we have this, all the problems that are going on. If you give the tools, and I believe to the MTV3 staff, they will be able to figure this out. And I'm not against people coming in virtually if they want to take their chance with that, but we should not be stopping the meetings. And why bring up the Gestapo? That's the Gestapo down there in Alessandro that threw out Victoria Baca for practicing her First Amendment rights. And that is a shame. To address the Cabrera and Marquez situation and what went on, I have a report filed since December. The two principals have not commented, have not disputed anything that was said in there. And other members of the public can say, well, a coup trying to take over the city of Moreno Valley is equivalent to a traffic ticket. I will respectfully disagree. I think that is very serious, more serious than a heart attack. I think we got a war going on across the continents over this. That's how serious this is. And if they're not commenting on it, tacit agreement, they're agreeing with everything I said in that letter. And I agree with Luis Palomares. There has been no contrition, no apology, no I'm sorry we didn't do that. If we're going to heal as a city, that should be the first thing that happens. Nothing is going to heal in this city if we steadfastly try to defend the action that was taken. And again, not showing contrition, not apologizing, not explaining exactly what went on, who all was bringing that up. Bring the other principal up there and have a public meeting and sort this all out so we can move forward. That's what is damaging our community. This is not personal. I've said this many times. It's about being an honest, ethical representative as you were duly elected. And I think we have failed in that in Moreno Valley. We should show leadership. The mayor should put an investigation on this, should put it on the agenda, put it in a study session or something, and have a complete airing of what went on in the coup takeover of Moreno Valley. Thank you.
Thank you, Roy. And then you said on A7. Okay, so when we get to that area, I'll call you back. Okay, so if you could be ready.
Thank you.
All right. City Clerk, any more for public?
No more speakers, Mayor, with the others.
Okay. All right, 1 second. Okay. We are now going to move to our joint consent calendar, sections A through E on the agenda. All items listed under the consent calendar, sections A, B, C, and D, and E are considered to be routine and non-controversial and be enacted by one motion. The motion to adopt the consent calendars is deemed to be a separate motion by each agency and shall be recorded by the city clerk. I do understand that there's two potential recusals from council members. I don't know if they wanted to say something.
Sure, Mr. Mayor. Oh, go ahead.
Councilor Cabrera.
Thank you very much. I do need to state for the record that I do need to recuse myself from item B6 as I have a interest in one of the properties that's on that item. So I do need to state for the record that I need to recuse myself for item B6 on tonight's agenda.
Okay, so recused on item B6. And then there was another recusal, Councilmember Delgado. Oh, you're muted, Councilmember.
I knew that.
That always happens.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I request that the minutes reflect that I am recusing myself from item A9 on the consent calendar since I'm an employee of the Riverside County Sheriff's Department until I receive official advice from the Fair Political Practices Commission regarding my ability to vote on issues related to law enforcement services provided by the Sheriff's Department. I will continue to recuse myself on all similar items in the future. I've also been advised by the City Attorney's Office that I do not have to leave the dais since the item is on the consent calendar. Thank you.
Okay. All right. And then, so we have two recusals, Councilor Cabrera on B6 and then Councilor Delgado on A9 for the records, stated in the record. Any other items for discussion here? Or not discussion, but any items that that you guys requested to be pulled or?
Yes, ma'am. And
Remember Cabrera?
I would like to pull item A9 just for a comment.
Okay, isn't that your recusal item?
No, that's a separate item. The one I'm asking for
no,
is
you're
A,
on B6. You're
A9.
on B6. Okay, yeah, yours is B6. His is A9. Okay, got it. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead for just a comment, right?
For A9, just a comment.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So A9, just wanted to make sure, again, we highlight these important items on consent calendar. This particular one is additional grant funding for police department, so that it helps with some of our finances with the police department. So basically, it's just additional grant funding that we're going to get that's going to help us out. So wanted to make sure that we highlight that one as well. Thank you.
Okay, and then Councilor Marquez, I saw your hand go up too.
Yeah, mine was on A9. I just wanted a brief from the chief, if you could just go through this real quick, what this A9 consists of.
Okay.
So the attendees could hear what it's about.
Okay. Chief, if you want to just give like a little overview, or whoever has the report on that, just the main changes to it.
That or Miss Linda, neither one, I believe.
It might be Brian that might have the report, but I'm not sure.
Your Mayor, this is Captain Salisbury. I am prepared to speak on it.
Oh, you're prepared? Okay, great.
So basically, the Supplemental Law Enforcement Services account is a grant fund that is provided to the District Attorney's Office and local police agencies for special funding. It's awarded by the state. In this instance, the change here is only that we received more funds than we initially anticipated. So we've made that correction, and we use these funds to pay for a couple of, well, it would be two of our CCAT positions. Any questions?
Okay, sorry, you stopped like right there. I thought you were still going. Oh, sorry. Okay. Any questions, Councilor Marquez?
And A7,
Thank you.
Who could brief overview on that one also? A7, Brian or Mike?
Yes, I'll have Brian Mohan do a presentation, a quick overview on that one. Brian, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Honorable Mayor, council members. So this is a routine item that has been coming before council every 60 days since it was implemented, along about 2020 when the governor initiated the original order. And as that order is still in place, even though he has many scaling back of his previous orders, the order is still in place. He's done some various things with the mask mandates and social distancing and so forth. But the resolution that was originally adopted for the pandemic resolution stated that as long as N2520 order was still in effect, that our pandemic resolutions would still be in effect. So that's why I am bringing these forward every 60 days. With that, I will entertain any questions you may have specifically about this, Councilmember Marquez.
Yeah, real quick, Brian. So the council meeting, we're gonna have open council meetings, correct?
On the 15th,
Now on?
yes.
Is that right,
Yeah,
Larry?
starting on the 15th, yes.
On the 15th. So it's not gonna require face mask. But we're also gonna have Zoom, right? It's combination. Are we still gonna have Zoom?
My understanding is just we're gonna come in person on the 15th.
Person.
Yeah, we haven't talked with the media on that yet.
Okay, so it's still being discussed on Zoom?
Yeah, but it will be in person. Yeah.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you very much, Mayor and Brian. Appreciate it.
Okay. All right.
At this time, I'll a motion that we approve the.
Hold on. Well, I did let Roy. I did tell him that he could speak on A7. So let me just let him speak. And Roy, are you around?
Yes. You have a copy?
A copy?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor, for letting me speak.
Yeah, for A7. Yes.
For A7, yes. I implore you not to pass A7. There is no COVID state of emergency anywhere in the United States or California. It's about time we show leadership from our representatives to stop this madness. I will say, if David is on the deal, as I've said, keep the Zoom meetings for those who are uncomfortable, but open up the meetings. There's no reason why we can't have both. That would be in the tradition of Victoria Baca and free speech that she fought for. On top of that, the CDC has withheld information by the boatloads on this, on and on and on. The evidence is clear, and the evidence is more clear that Gulag Gavin Newsom is backing up on this. The mayor, the council should be passing a resolution supporting SCR 5 from State Senator Melissa Melendez in this area. It will be heard at the Senate on March 15th, ending the state of emergency and the draconian procedures that have been put on the people of the state of California, the city of Moreno Valley, constricting our rights of freedom. You should be up there. 3 of you are Democrats, I believe. You should be lobbying Sabrina Cervantes, assembly member, Little Dickie Roth, the senator, telling them, stop it. Stand for the people. Stop the madness. You've been lying to us for 2 years. You've been giving us false information. Now you're backing up on it. Well, mask, unmask, or that, it doesn't make any difference. Before you were telling us, guys like me were going to kill everybody. Again, do not pass A7. Show some leadership in Moreno Valley. We are going to be the first city, like school districts, over 24 of them said, we're not subjecting kids to masks anymore. This is over. Make us proud of this city. Show that we are worthy of turning the image around. Show us that we can indeed lead in this city and be up front and take the lead on it. This is a small indication, should have gone on 2 years ago. Sadly, we can't change history, but what we can do is affect the future. And you can affect the future right now by not passing A7, sending a message to the state of California, to the governor and the legislature, that you are standing for the people, you're standing for freedom, you're standing for truth and government, which, Lord knows, Moreno Valley needs a big dose of. Thank you.
Thank you, Roy. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion that we approve the consent calendar with the recusal of Councilmember Cabrera on item B6 and a recusal from Councilmember Delgado on A9. If there's
motion.
Okay, so
I'll second the motion.
Okay. All right. Madam Clerk?
Thank you. Councilmember Marquez?
Yes.
Councilmember Cabrera?
Yes.
Councilmember Delgado?
Yes, ma'am.
Mayor Gutierrez?
Yes.
Motion passes 4 ayes. Thank you.
Okay. We're now to item F, which is the third public hearing regarding the decennial city. This is the third, I believe. The third decennial city council redistricting process based on recently released 2020 U.S. Census population data for the city of Moreno Valley. We'll have a report from our city attorney, who I believe will defer it to the consultants. And again, this is something that we have to have every 10 years, no matter what. We have to have these hearings. It's a requirement.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That is correct. We are required to do this regardless of what anybody may think about our current maps. So we do have to go through this process. So as the mayor mentioned, this is the third of the 4 state mandated public hearings the city council must hold regarding the redistricting process. And so we have to revisit this issue every 10 years when the U.S. Census results are released. Again, however, I'd like to point out that this is not the proper forum to address the number of districts, hence the number of council members. The number of council members is a ballot issue for the voters to decide. And that decision was made back in 2014. So in order to change that, it has to be put back on the ballot. So bottom line is that the whole issue about the number of council members is not a decision that could be unilaterally set by the city council in this context. So with that said, I'd like to reintroduce Chris Skinnell of Nielsen Merksimer. It's a law firm. As I mentioned at one of the prior public hearings, Nielsen Merksimer has worked with numerous agencies throughout the United States on the redistricting process, and they've done that for over 40 years. The agencies that they've represented include the state of Arizona, the state of New Mexico, and the Florida State Senate, and they also have worked with over 70 local agencies in California on redistricting. So I think they're very well qualified, and I think we're lucky to have them on board with us, because I know how busy they were dealing with the counties and how busy they are representing a number of other cities. With that said, I'd like to introduce Chris Skinnell. So take it away, Chris.
Thanks, Steve. There we go. All right, I'm going to share my screen if I can. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Chris.
Yes,
Oh,
we can
there we
hear
go.
you, Chris. Go ahead, Chris.
Apologies. I just got promoted to panelist. So thank you, Steve, for the introduction. And thank you, Council, for having me back again. I'm going to share my screen here and for the PowerPoint. So this is, if you recall, the third public hearing in this process, which we began back in the beginning of February. The state law, the Fair Maps Act, requires that the council conduct 4 public hearings as part of the redistricting process. As Steve mentioned, this is something that has to happen every 10 years in the year following the census. And every city that has districts has to do it. There's no discretion to not do it. So we had the first two public hearings on February 1st and February 15th. And the purpose of those two hearings was to get feedback. Well, first of all, to provide information regarding the rules of the road, how we go about doing this, what the process was, and to get feedback from you and from the public about communities of interest primarily and what the district should look like going forward. And also to provide information about the existing district lines. Now, this evening, we're going to do a bit of a shift. This evening, we are moving into the mapping phase of the districting process. And state law requires that we conduct at least two public hearings after maps are prepared and proposed. And so the real goal this evening is for you to see maps and discuss them. And then the goal ultimately is for us to have that second public hearing 2 weeks from now on the 15th, and to, at that time, ideally adopt the final district map to be considered for the next 10 years. The deadline for all of this is April 17th. It's set by state law. But as I've mentioned before, we always try to build in a little bit of a cushion for the registrar's office, which has to take this and implement it by reassigning all of the voters. Just to briefly summarize what we've discussed before, the rules. The way redistricting works is that federal law sets a few kind of key pillars of the legal structure. The equal population requirements set by the Supreme Court, which require that districts not differ from the ideal number or ideal population by any more than about plus or minus 5%. And then protection of minority voting rights within the city. And then within the constraints of federal law, which are fairly broad, then state law fills in the gaps. And based on the Fair Maps Act, which was adopted in 2019, the City Council now has to adopt a map that complies with these four requirements in the order that they're set out in the statute. And so the first one is contiguity. The districts have to be geographically contiguous, not a very difficult requirement to meet in most cases. Second, and the sort of the heart of what a lot of this is about, is minimizing the division of neighborhoods and communities of interest to the extent possible. That's not always something that we can do perfectly, because sometimes communities of interest and neighborhoods have to be divided, either because of equal population or Voting Rights Act requirements, or because sometimes you have to choose. In other words, you can keep this community of interest whole or this community of interest, but not both. And so it's a little bit of a judgment and a balancing act for the council. The third most important consideration is the goal of using easily identifiable boundaries so that voters kind of know what their districts are. And, we're talking major roads, freeways, hills, railroad tracks, you name it, anything that someone can look at and understand as an obvious district boundary. And then at the bottom of the list, compactness. Assuming everything else is complied with, then you want to try and have districts that don't meander all over the city, but are compact, and so that you aren't bypassing some population to go get other areas of population. And then assuming that we can meet all of those criteria in state law, there may be some room potentially for the consideration of other traditional criteria, such as minimizing the impact on voters. Ideally, we'd like to not have voters switching from, the 2022 election cycle to 2024, or vice versa, so that they're either missing an election or voting twice in a row, et cetera. And related to that, then preserving the core of existing districts, because people will have built political and community relationships within their existing districts. Finally, just to briefly summarize a couple of procedural points that we've talked about before. The way this works in terms of implementation is once the final map is adopted, no council member's term is cut short. You all serve the terms to which you were elected. But then when your term expires, your current term in 4 years, then you have to run for re-election in the district in which you live, assuming that it's up for election that year. Also, as Steve mentioned, just to reiterate, because the current 4-district system was adopted in 2014 by a vote of the people, we've had a number of comments urging, more districts, 6, whatever. That is not an option for this process. That would have to go back to the voters and be approved by them separately. And it's not something that we could have completed in time for the 2022 elections, at least. And so now I want to turn to, as I said, the main point, the maps. If you recall, we talked before about the fact that the current map, district map, is population balanced and complies with the Voting Rights Act. And so it is a mapping option that is available for the council to consider maintaining. I should mention this map and all of the maps we're going to discuss are available on the city's redistricting website, which is redistrictmobile.org. Most of the commentary that we've received so far has actually been in favor of keeping the current lines. Probably 9 out of 10 comments that we've received in the last couple public hearings have been in favor of that. And so, as I said, that is an option. The population deviation of the current plan is about a little under 5.5%. If you're within 10%, the Supreme Court says that that's presumed to be constitutional. In terms of the Voting Rights Act, 2 of the districts are majority Latino citizen voting age population, and 2 are heavy plurality. So the current plan complies with that act as well. But in addition to the current lines, if you recall, one of the components or the opportunities that the city has provided to the public is the ability to go online and draw maps themselves and submit them for consideration. And so we have a link on the city's redistricting website to a program publicly available called Dave's Redistricting app. Our consultant, National Demographics Corporation, has provided the population information and the underlying demographics so that anybody can go from the city's website and they can either start with the current districts or with a blank slate, and they can draw their own maps. And it will automatically calculate the demographics of those proposed lines in real time. So they can tell if they're complying with the equal population and complying with the Voting Rights Act, et cetera. And then they can upload them for processing by the demographers. And as I said, most of the comments we've had have been to keep the current lines. And so instead of having the demographers propose new lines, without any real commentary, we had a couple of public maps submitted, 3 in fact, that track with the other sort of handful of comments that we've heard. The first map is Public Map 101. And as part of the process, when you're submitting a map, you have the option of providing comments to explain the rationale. This particular submitter who submitted Public Map 101 didn't provide any explanation for the map, but you can see it's got a more sort of unified eastern half of the city, and then the other 3 districts kind of run north to south. In terms of the demographics, it is within the 10%. It is, in fact, 0.76%, pretty low. Although I do want to specify that if you're within that 10%, there's not really much reason to favor one map over another. They're all regarded as presumed to be constitutional. It also has 2 majority Latino districts and 2 plurality Latino districts. The second publicly submitted map, Public Map 102, the submitter provided this commentary. It says, an example of a map that rejoins our animal keeping properties on the east that were separated in the last redistricting to 4 districts. 6 districts are needed, but we're being denied. This map also ends the gerrymandering in District 1. As we discussed, we can't move to 6 districts. 4 is the only option on the table currently. But this map proposes, at least states that it proposes to unify the eastern part of the city. And so in terms of demographics, it's also within the 10%, 2.79. It also has has 1 majority Latino district, 1 that's exactly 50%, and 2 that are plurality Latino districts. So again, complies with the Voting Rights Act. And then finally, the last public map, submitted by the same person who submitted map 102, I should say, provided this comment. It's actually very similar. If you notice, districts 1 and 4 are identical to the ones in public map 102. There are some slight changes in between districts 3 and 2, right in this area primarily, by south of the 10. The comments, this map tries to reconnect the remaining animal keeping properties on the east end, both sides of the freeway that was taken away during the recent redistricting to 4 districts. So again, a similar rationale from Public Map 102. It says our animal communities were separated in violation of keeping like communities together. The land area is larger because of low density / larger lot residences and open land. In terms of the demographics, this map also is within the 10%. It's 1.9, and it also has 1 majority Latino district, 2 plurality, and 1 that's 50%. Now, in terms of, we're going to talk or have an opportunity for the public to talk about these maps and get feedback from you. The council has opportunities to make changes this evening if they're so inclined, ask for any sort of tweaks if they want to see them, or ask for new maps for that matter if there's anything in particular you'd like to see. And members of the public also can continue to share their thoughts using the redistricting website. I would note, though, that the process, at the beginning of the process, we set a deadline of March 2nd for submitting public maps. The reason being that there have to be any map that's going to be considered for final adoption on the 15th has to be posted at least 7 days before that under state law. And so that's March 8th. And it is necessary for the demographer to have some time to take whatever is submitted and do the processing that they have to do. So we built in a few days for that. And so we ask that by 5 o'clock tomorrow evening, any further maps that are going to be submitted by members of the public be submitted at that time. And that's then going to be the cutoff for submission at the March 15th meeting and for consideration as a possible option for adoption. And so, as I said, the goal this evening is really to hear from you and to hear from the public, which of the maps you like, if you think there are any changes that would be helpful or beneficial, so that we can make any final changes and come back for final adoption in 2 weeks.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Is that the end of your presentation?
It is.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, okay, we're going to go ahead and take council questions right now, and then we'll go ahead and open the hearing, and then we'll have public comments. Any council questions? Councilor Marquez, I saw you said something. Okay. I think you're muted. Yeah, we can't hear you. There, now we can.
Can you hear? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Chris, for your presentation. One question. I'm in District 3. In District 3, we have a lot of developers developing, and in the near future, we're going to have a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have a lot more than the rest of the city districts are going to have. Now, you talked about the future of growth in the city in District 1 compared to other districts. Now, you said you don't consider that, or you don't take that in for consideration when you're doing the maps, the final maps?
Yeah, in a normal redistricting cycle, we might be able to do that because we would have more time. But the courts have said that if you're going to try and do any sort of adjustment like that, it has to be comprehensive and it has to be citywide. And that's a process that just takes more time than we have, given the lateness of the census and given the fact that the legislature has compressed the back end, the deadline. So, we're doing all of this in a couple of months. There just isn't the bandwidth or the time to be able to take that into account.
Okay, but just to foresee the growth in the city, like you said, we don't have enough time. What time or when's the best time to readdress this after we're done? I mean, or can we?
Yeah, so if there is a sufficient amount of growth, the elections code does provide an option for mid-decade redistricting, primarily if there are annexations, but potentially also in other circumstances. It takes a pretty significant amount. That most likely it would be in the next redistricting cycle in 2020 or 2030.
I see. And I have not seen anywhere anybody's brought up about, I understand that you don't want to split a district up or a neighborhood up pertaining to Rancho Belago. East End town is named Rancho Belago, and a lot of people use that name as a mailing city.
Mhm.
But when you do your zip code, it comes back to Moreno Valley. Now, if you split up District 3, would that affect any of the laws or any concerns in splitting up that community?
Well, I suppose it depends on what you link it to and what impact that has on the rest of the city and the other communities. You know, it's a little bit of a redistricting is a little bit of a zero-sum game in that every change you make to District 3 then impacts all of the districts around it. And so, you know, the current districts presumably were adopted in 2014 because they reflected communities of interest, particular communities of interest. Some people in this process have suggested that there are other communities of interest, particularly the eastern animal properties that should be taken into account. But then that may result in other communities of interest being split. And so it's a little bit of a balancing act or a judgment call for the council to decide what best preserves the communities of interest within the city. And if the current map does that, then there's nothing that precludes the council from maintaining it. If the council thinks that there's a better way to do it, then it has the discretion to do that as well.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Mayor?
Steve? Yeah, go ahead.
I just like to comment. Councilmember Marquez's question, I think, I may be wrong. Are you asking whether or not our maps are going to impact like the names of certain communities or the boundaries of certain communities? Like Rancho Bellagio, did I pronounce that right? Will remain the same. You know, the boundaries will remain the same. So the redistricting is all about where the voters are. It's not going to change any of the boundaries of our specific plan areas or any areas that have a master plan or any neighborhoods that have certain names attached to them.
Well, yeah, that's just like Centermead Ranch. You wouldn't want to split that up, but if you do, it's still going to be Centermead Ranch.
That's correct. You're right.
That won't change. Correct, Steve? Chris?
That's correct.
Steve? Okay.
Yeah, you're correct.
Thank you.
Councilmember Cabrera?
Thank you, Chris, for the presentation. Again, appreciate that information, additional context. And I think Councilmember Marquez was asking something similar. I just wanted to follow up on that in terms of after this, right? This process is happening because of the decennial census, happens every 10 years. By law, we're required to look at our population and redraw our council maps. In the future, you've already clarified that any change in the number of districts has to be done by ballot measure, has to go for a vote. I'm not asking about that. What I'm curious about is when else, for example, this city council or a future city council could make changes to the council district lines. You mentioned every 10 years for sure, possibly maybe 5 years from now, but are there any other ways that a future city council could look at? Because I mean, it could be true that, for example, in the District 3 area, current District 3, I mean, that is the area that has the most vacant land and will see the most amount of development over the next several years. It could have exponential population growth, which would dramatically change, the population ratios throughout the city. So basically my question would be, besides every 10 years and possibly every 5 years, when else could a future city council make changes?
Yeah. The short answer is really not. So it used to be that a city council had some discretion to do this mid-decade, more discretion. The legislature, in enacting the Fair Maps Act, has really constrained the ability of the city council to do that. It's really targeted to the every 10-year census, unless certain population thresholds are met. And I don't have them in front of me right now. I can provide them to you. But it's sort of the unusual case where that would happen. And so if the council, or the city, the voters were to change the number of districts, that would require redrawing inevitably. But as long as that's not the case, you're really looking primarily at the 2030 census as the most likely option for any sort of adjustments.
Got it. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you. All right. And then just to clarify, Chris, you did mention that the existing maps do meet the federal criteria, the Fair Maps Act, and some traditional criteria. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm going to go ahead and open the hearing. And we're going to take public testimony. Madam Clerk, can you call how many speakers do we have on this one?
8.
If we can mute Roy, if you could please mute. Thank you. Okay. We have 8. Okay, go ahead and call on the first 3.
Yes, sir. George Haig, followed by David and Susan Zeitz. Mr. Haig, star 6. Mr. Haig?
Yes, yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Just like we voted to, in between 2010 and 2020, voted to change from 5 districts to 4, we could still do so again, I assume, between now and 2030. And that's why I would like to read into the record the following. I will be speaking on the need to expand to 7-member councils and the reason why it's beneficial, as the consultant mentioned at the last meeting. At your last meeting, you heard from the consultant that most cities in which we were compared had at least 7 council members. This allows them to serve fewer constituents and therefore do a better job representing them. The county's 2nd largest city, I would be surprised if any other county city requires their council members to serve more than 50,000 residents like ours is proposing. Our consultant also mentioned it is more likely when there are fewer people in a council district, it is easier for a resident with limited resources to become a candidate and win. I can understand why the majority of you would probably not want this because you have received contributions of $5,000, $10,000, in some cases multiples of these amounts from a single special interest. In my opinion, this is one reason the last warehouse was approved across the street from apartments, homes, and charter school. A few years ago, during the holiday season, when few were paying attention, our city council voted no limits on campaign contributions while most cities put a limit. Our council needs to support democracy and expand our council to 7 members, as well as put a limit on campaign donations. Those voting in the upcoming election need to put each candidate on the record for these 2 issues because they go hand in hand. All of you, as well as the next District 1 candidate need to give your views on expanding the council to 7 and limit campaign contributions, both of which improve democracy. Those speaking and voting in favor of maintaining the districts, the same are in favor of keeping large donors maintaining undue influence on our city council decisions. Because we have the census results now, is the most reasonable and cost-effective time to expand to 7 council members for much better representational democracy in our city. People need to ask why are those wanting to maintain the status quo with only 5 on the council not in favor of improving representational democracy in our city. You, the council, have the power to put this on the election docket for people to vote on. These allow us to have 7 members and have a better representational democracy in our city like other cities around us. Another note, I want to thank you very much for continuing to allow people.
Next speaker, please. Pat?
Susan and David Zeitz.
Okay. I muted you.
All right, we can hear you.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. If I could borrow George's entire speech, I would read it it again because I agree with everything he said. Because until we can get more, just having more districts on the ballot, then I believe the lines should be adjusted to keep the uniquely diversified areas in the same district. Doing so will enhance district representation by providing more equitable representation for both their districts and their constituents. I did take advantage of the online mapping and was glad it was pretty user-friendly, so where we could change the lines as we would like to see them. So I hope that is taken into consideration. So I'm assuming that if the lines are changed, then the current representatives will just represent the same district numbers regardless of where the line is. I don't know how it's done, but I'd like having more districts put on the ballot, so I'm hoping somebody can get that done. I believe it would give us better representation and agree with the consultant that smaller districts would make it less expensive to campaign. And again, I agree with George. I think that limits should be set. So anyways, I won't bore you with repeating anything more. Thank you for your time. Here's David.
She's done.
Okay, thanks, David. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, one, I did look at the maps that they showed. I do like the idea of having the animal keeping area all in one district because we have to have a person that represents us. And this is not a dig at Mr. Delgado. He's a very nice guy doing a heck of a good job. But we do have to have somebody that understands the way of life out here. It's not that much different, but it is. That's why we moved, is to be in an urban area. I know a lot of people that I talk to that live down in different parts of the cities where they're living close together, which is fine. They don't even know who their across the street neighbors are. I can tell you every one of my neighbors within a half a mile. It's a different way of life out here. That's why we're out here. I would love to see all the large animal keeping area put together. If you want to call it Rancho Balago, that's fine. But I think we would get a better representation if we would stick together as the type of communities that we are. You know, like Sunnymead Ranch has the HOAs and all this. We don't have all that out here. It's not a concern that we have. That's their problem, not ours. Then on a different note, I'm hoping that we're just not doing this because the state says we have to do it, and we're spending a lot of money for consultants, and we're not even going to really consider it. I think the districts need to be realigned with how the communities lay out and how the open spaces lay out. I'm not against development. I'm just against stupid development. Out here, people want larger lots, and we're not going to have the influx of population that we probably would if you had empty lots down in town. So in keeping the larger lots together, I think it's a good idea. I'm glad it was open for public to put in their ideas. I do like the one that has the less than 1%. I mean, if we're going to go for ideal, let's go for ideal. I don't think it disturbs anybody really in where they live, on what district they happen to represent. And again, I just want to reiterate, I hope we haven't spent a bunch of money on just land. I hope we are really seriously considering that districts may need to be changed. But by the sounds of what I've heard from certain people from the diocese, we're just going through the motions. And I hate to see our city waste the money that way. So you guys have a good evening, and thank you for your time.
Roy Blackard, followed by Luis Palomares and Don Martin.
You have a copy?
Yes, sir.
First, I'd like to correct a little bit of history. The map that was currently drawn was a correction of a map that was passed in council in 2011, put together by Chris Baca and Richard Stewart, council member, otherwise known as Dickie Stew. Second thing, it was explained in all the renditions in 2014 why District 1 was that. And on top of that, I will say that map, District, a very close friend of mine, Mayor and Council Member Jesse Molina, out of a seat So those that keep saying gerrymander and all this other stuff are running potentially on the defamation stuff and playing revisionist history. Please stop before this goes any further. You get to the maps, the current map keeps everybody in the same voting areas, does not get the 2, 4, and 6 deal, and the most thing that most people want in their districts is to stay in the district. They like the continuity of the community. I agree with Chris, the consultant. The current map keeps the core areas of that. The other maps on there are splitting Sunnymead, Edgemont, the others, and even though we put it together in an expedited process, the development, as you can see in the concept of that, evened out the population. As I said, corrected the 2000, 1990, and 2010 maps that had variously 3 times the population in the East End. That is why the current map should be continued, and Moreno Valley Unified School District used that as a 5 trustee area map and passed basically the same map. Go look at it, and they approved their map again. So to go against that, the current map that's on there is to go against the map that the Moreno Valley Unified School District has. They're splitting communities, splitting voters, making them go 2, 4, 6 years of all that. On top of that, the current map is consistent with the development that's going to come in with the general plan, and the East End, east of the freeway, east of Nason, rural community is still going to be, whether any of those maps are passed, in one area. So that argument fails on that. You should pass the current map. It overall serves our community the best as it was intended and the way we should move forward in Moreno Valley. Thank you.
Okay, next 3 speakers.
Luis Palomares, Don Martin, and David Larategues.
Luis Palomares, I don't get Marcus and Cabrera. Don't they get it? We're not supposed to be talking about adding districts. This is stick to the item on the agenda. And they just don't get it. What the heck's wrong? Didn't they do the damn homework? You know, it's just a power grab. They want additional seats in there so they can get the haters club in there, the obstructionists, the 666 club that don't want anything. I might be wrong, but I don't think my council member and the mayor and either one of those two, Heckle and Jekyll in there, I don't think either one of them get 20, 40, 50 calls a day. That's a bunch of bull. So why do they need extra districts in there? And it's not about that, Cabrera. Come on, it's about the census. But you keep on bringing it on. You got the Sykes people, the Susan Sykes, that's always talking about a bad hair day. Come on, get a life, you people out there. And then George Hagg also. You know, come on. It's ridiculous. Now you got Cabrera over there. You know, Sykes, David Sykes is contradicting himself. The last time he talked at the meeting about this, he was contradicting himself. Look at it. And then again, Cabrera, you got to explain to your sidekick over there, or he is your sidekick, Marcus, about what's going on. You're explaining what he's trying to get out, right? Didn't he do his homework? I guess not. Again, hey, get on the right page. Come on, get on the right page. If you're going to lie together. Make the lie right. Agree on the lie together, okay? So, we don't need this. Leave it alone. The city has done their homework. They brought in this professional team that's crossed all their T's and dotted all their I's and looped all their Z's. So what else do you want? You're beating a dead horse. Leave it alone because it's not going to happen. No matter what you do, Cabrera and Marcus, and no matter what the Dens want or the other ones want, the Haters Club, LaDonna, it's not going to happen because the census is going to make it happen, not you two. And then you're questioning. Now you want the attorney's legal advice. Oh, well, could we do this? Could we do that? After the fact, after our fourth hearing on this? No, you can't. Don't you get it? What don't you get? What don't you get? But that's right, Cabrera. You're too busy out there campaigning, so you ain't paying attention to what's really going on behind the scenes, right? You know, you people are just you never cease to amaze me. Never ever. And you just don't get it. You just don't get it. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen at the next meeting. But they're going to vote 2-2. You already got their minds made up. You're so dead wanting to make this happen about let's get some extra seats in there. No, it's not going to happen. Thank you. Thank you. And I wasn't even going to talk about this, but thanks. You did it again.
Next speaker, please.
Don Martin, and the last speaker is David Laratelles.
Okay, go ahead, Don.
Hi, good evening once again, guys. Nice to speak with you again. Okay, regarding this district expansion, as the gentleman pointed out in the beginning, numbers don't add up. So since they don't add up, and honestly, at projected growth, they're probably not going to get close to it until our next census is around the corner in 2030. Let's just leave this to bed. I mean, he's already said that this matter shouldn't be brought up. Let's stop trying to make excuses. The honest truth is the council members that have their districts now, and we have a new not a new district, but a district that looks to be filled. Let them focus on those districts. They don't got too much work in their hands. They don't have a bunch of constituents calling them up every day, demanding things and this and that. Their phones aren't overloaded. They don't need to break this down into other places or more districts, because honestly, it seems more like they're trying to pack the court, so to speak, where they're trying to get people that fit their agendas that will help push these agendas through the city. And we don't need this right now. So let's just leave that to bed. That's really all I got to say about the expansion of districts. Let's actually address this when it's necessary, when we have the growth that is here, not projected growth and everything else that won't be probably for another 5-6 years. That's all for my time. I rescind my time back as well.
Okay.
David Laratelles.
Thank you. I'd like to address another comment that Ulysses Cabrera said in council comments at the last meeting. He said that he's not the one who brought this issue forward. No, you weren't. I never said you were. What you're trying to do is exploit it. You're trying to exploit the opportunity. This is coming up because it comes up every 10 years. But there's not a sufficient percentage of growth in order to do this change. So you're trying to propose adding council seats so that you could stack the council, so that you could grab power, just as you have always been doing. To either change these districts or to add districts, it is unnecessary. It is unnecessary. We don't need to change this. Whenever there's redistricting, there is a political process. It is highly political. When you look at the state, when the Republicans are doing redistricting, there's additional Republican seats. When Democrats do redistricting, there's additional Democratic seats. Messing with council districts is not something that is advantageous to the voters of Moreno Valley. It alienates the voters of Moreno Valley. We have our districts. There's no reason to change them. We just have somebody, Cabrera, up there who thinks that he has the best solution for districts in Moreno Valley. Well, someone who deliberately, willingly, and premeditatedly violated the law to illegally appoint someone just 4 months ago is not someone who we want tinkering with our districts. Keep your hands off of it. Try to get power the right way. If you are not able to elect people, maybe you just have a bad agenda. And maybe you should stop running for mayor, and maybe you should have just tried to keep that council seat. Or maybe you should just go back to Alessandro and sell tacos.
No more speakers, Mayor Gutierrez.
Okay, at this time, I'm going to go ahead and close the hearing, and we're going to move to deliberation. if there's any comments from council members on this item, or if you want to save it for the last hearing, that's fine too, whatever you guys would like to do. Okay, so we still have one more hearing, the final hearing, which we'll be doing in person, and we'll have to select something for sure by that time. Okay.
Mayor, I'd like to save my comments for that time.
Okay. All right. So then I'm going to go ahead and move to item H. We didn't have any items pulled for separate votes, so we'll just go with, I think it's Councilmember Delgado. You have the JPC report, the March Joint Powers, and the RCTC. And then after that, we have Councilmember Marquez. So Councilmember Delgado, do you want to just go ahead and give both reports?
Sure.
Okay.
Let me check, make sure I'm off of mute. Yep. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tonight I'm providing updates from the March Joint Powers Commission meeting held on February 23rd. We learned that the Air Force has committed to relocating the KC-46 aerial refueling mission to the March Air Reserve Base, essentially BRAC-proofing the base for decades. So that's a good thing. That's an amazing thing that we secured that. We also learned that the March Inland Port Airport will be receiving a grant of almost $1 million for capital improvements. Finally, we heard an update about the March Airfield Museum, which will be receiving an F-16 very soon. And I'm excited to share that the museum will be hosting a symposium for the SR-71 Blackbird Reconnaissance plane over the weekend of April 2nd. And the next air show will be scheduled for sometime in 2023. Now, we did get a presentation from Mr. Dada regarding the Air Museum. And if you guys have not been to that museum, it's very, very historic and very, very cool. So if you haven't been there, take your kids and enjoy that. That's all I have for the March Joint Powers Commission meeting that was held on the 23rd. Thank you. RCTC at the February 28th meeting of the RCTC Programs and Projects Committee. The committee approved agreements for the upgrade of tracks at the Moreno Valley March Field Metrolink station, as well as the expansion of the boarding platform at the station as well. The item will go to commission for final action on the next meeting. And that concludes my report for the RCTC. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Thank you, Councilmember Delgado. We also have a report from Councilmember Marquez from the Riverside Transit Agency, RTA.
Can you hear me, Mayor?
Yes, we can. Yes.
At the March 24th RTA Board of Directors meeting, the board received the following reports. Ridership in January 2022 increased by 45% compared to January 2021. And on-time performance in January 2022 was 91% compared to 88% in December of 2021. The board approved its construction contract for the Vine Street Mobility Hub. Hopefully it will be done hopefully by the end of the year. And that concludes my report, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. We'll go ahead and move on to City Manager's report.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor, members, City Council. Just two items tonight. First is I just want to make the announcement that the March 3rd, Thursday, we're having our job fair at the CRC from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. We're going to have 60 different employers looking to hire people. So please do come if you're looking for a job. And so that's, once again, this is at the CRC. The second thing is we're also having a free drive-through shred event. This is going to happen at Saturday, March 26th at the City Yard. And you just come up with your boxes of legal documents or medical records, and you want to get them shredded at no cost and just show up. So once again, this is Saturday, March 26th from 8 a.m. to 12. That concludes my presentation tonight. Thank you, Mayor.
And that's the City Yard, the one right off of Paris and Iris?
Yes, this is the City Yard at 15670 Paris Boulevard.
Okay, great. 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. Got it. Thank you. And I'll be stopping by probably. But okay, all right. So we're going to go ahead and go into closing comments here. So we have, this brings us to reports and comments from council members who did not speak earlier. We'll go ahead and do 5 minutes for each closing comment, and we'll start with Councilmember Marquez.
don't use it all. So I just want to start off by saying that next month, working on it with staff on meet and greet on District 3, so we could update many of the projects that are going on in District 3. So just keep your ears and eyes open for that date, and it will be sometime in April. Secondly, this is a subject that everybody keeps bringing up. Very few people are bringing it up, by the way, on apology for what I did on November 21st, or November 2021, on the incident about the appointment. There will be a response from me shortly, and it will be on Press Enterprise. I will let you know when it is finalized, gone over by certain people, legal people, and from a lot of my supporters. So you will get a response for the people that keep bringing it up every council meeting, and maybe we can put this to rest. I don't know if it will or not, but there's so many things that people don't know when to let up. But I just want to let you know there will be a response coming shortly, and as soon as it's done, it will be in the Press Enterprise, but it'll also be given to the mayor and city before it gets to the Press Enterprise. And other than that, everybody take care. Potholes, we're working on them. And also one more thing, the interchange for the Moreno Beach interchange, there's going to be a closure. Mike, do you recall what that date is for the closure of the 60 freeway?
I'll have Michael Lloyd respond to that. Michael, if you could respond.
Good evening. It's tentatively scheduled for March 18th and 19th, and it'll be based upon directions, westbound, eastbound, but please note that that's tentative. We're still working with Caltrans on finalizing those dates.
Okay. So everybody on the east side that uses that, or anybody in the city that uses that interchange, just beware that that's going to be coming up here shortly. And if there's any questions, feel free to call me, call our public works director, or even our city manager. And other than that, I wish everybody a nice evening, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Thank you.
Sorry, I've done this multiple times. I always forget who's next. So 1 second. I believe it's one second. Oh, shoot. Okay. Having little computer issues here. Councilmember, is it Councilmember Cabrera or Delgado that goes next?
Cabrera.
Cabrera? Okay, I'm trying to remember here because my screen just shut off here. Okay, go ahead, Councilmember Cabrera.
Thank you. Good evening. Buenas tardes, everyone. Good to be back at our regular council meeting. First, I would like to speak on the topic of Ukraine. I want to thank members of the public who reached out and requested that we light the M to show solidarity with Ukraine. I want to thank our staff for making that happen as well. You know, a lot of innocent people are dying over there. A lot of families, it's just really sad to see what's happening over there, especially, you know, just seeing the footage. I think now more than ever, because of how connected we are with social media and the internet, we're seeing clearer than ever the consequences of war. And so just want to, you know, thank everyone who is showing support and doing what they can to help the people of Ukraine. And also, you know, just the leadership over there with the president, President Zelensky, and also the mayor there of the capital, you know, showing real leadership when they could have easily retreated, when they could have easily run away and disappeared. They made the tough decision not to and put their life on the line and stand up for their people. So, you know, that's very inspiring, and they're showing real leadership there. So just want to acknowledge them as well. Here closer to home in the city of Moreno Valley, Santiago Park, brand new park, the city's newest one, is scheduled to open tentatively for the end of March, beginning of April, right here between Paris and Iris and Gentian and Indian, right next to March Middle School. Beautiful park, still not open to the public. It's still not done, but it will be done pretty soon. And it includes 2 half basketball courts, multiple swing sets, the first of its kind exercise stations. I've never seen anything like it here in the area. So really, really happy to see that. Also includes, a playground for the kids, and also a running path all the way around the park. So really, really nice. I was very impressed to see that. A lot of residents are asking, why aren't there more trees? Why isn't there more shade? It gets really hot here. I promised them I would mention that to staff, and I've fulfilled that promise. So if we can get that done, hopefully we can, but I know it's already maybe too late to do that. So I just want to thank staff for working on that as well. February 19th, there was a neighborhood watch meeting here in my district over near Rancho del Sol Golf Course. I want to thank the 3 deputies who came out from the police department and answered a lot of questions from the constituents. And I want to thank my constituents for inviting me, reaching out and having me there. We were able to talk about a lot of things, but one of them that we really talked about extensively were the semi trucks, the big rigs driving down John F. Kennedy, Redlands Boulevard, Moreno Beach, Iris to Paris Boulevard, driving through these residential tracts, tearing up our roads. And I let them know that something that's been delayed again and again is the second unit for the commercial enforcement team. But I believe that that's coming finally over the next month or two. It's taken a long time, but it's right around the corner. So I let them know about that. And then one of them is a retired deputy from San Bernardino Sheriff's Department. And he asked, if it would be possible to allocate some of the traffic motors to, repurpose them sometimes to enforce truck routes and where these big rigs shouldn't be. So I told him I would mention that to our chief of police, and I'll make sure to follow up on that as well. I did also, speaking of the SET team, I went on a ride along with the commercial enforcement team. It was really interesting. I learned a lot. We already know that our deputies save lives on a regular basis, but I saw a different aspect of that going out there with the SET team. What they do, everything that they check when it comes to making sure that these trucks are operating properly, whether that's tires or hydraulics or brakes or their engine, whatever it is. Because as you may have seen online videos, that big rigs can cause a lot of damage and can take lives very easily, especially if they're not working properly. So the SET team doesn't only make sure that these big rigs are not
Council member, I think you froze. And we'll stop the clock. Yeah. I don't know. I think it's. Are you there, Councilmember Cabrera?
Am I live again?
Yes. Yeah. I don't know what happened there.
I'm back. Okay. Yeah. Where did I cut off? I'm not sure where I cut off there.
I don't recall. I don't recall where you were at.
Okay. I was in the middle of talking about the SET team. So I'll just,
you mentioned the commercial. You mentioned the commercial.
Commercial enforcement. Okay.
Yes.
Excellent. Yes. Okay. Yeah. So I pretty much said what I needed to say about that. Thank you. Last Thursday, also the Moreno Valley Unified School District had their National Black History Month celebration. It was a drive-through format at Vista del Lago High School. I want to thank them for doing that. They were giving out a ton of books for free to the students, the parents, the faculty, the staff. Also, they were giving out food, and they were playing a lot of music. So even though it was freezing cold out there, we had a lot of fun doing it. And I want to thank the entire school board, Superintendent Kedziora, for continually doing these things. They're always doing things for the community. Demonstration garden, that the dedication ceremony happened on February 23rd. It's very, very nice. The first of its kind in the city. I was proud to bring that to the city council over 2 years ago, and I'm happy to see it finally done. Just kind of wrapping up my comments, just hope you all are staying safe, and we will see you at our next council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Delgado.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the public. I want to go back to the word reconnaissance. I could say it, reconnaissance. I don't know why I jacked that up too bad, but I did. Like Councilmember Cabrera said about the demonstration garden, that was really cool. I had a guy from the UCR botany area over there give me a little tour, and it was really cool. So if you guys have an opportunity to come and see the garden, there are limited hours, so call the city to find out what those hours are and come take a visit. Last week I met with Connie King of the Black America Resource Directory, and we're going to start working with them to help her provide some of our disadvantaged youth with computers. So we set her up with some contact information within the city. So that was really cool. I'm going to keep an open communication with Connie moving from here forward. Saturday, I attended the 10th annual third grade reading festival hosted by the Moreno Valley Unified School District. And Dr. K was the host, and it was really amazing to see the amount of kids that are getting into reading. And I don't know if it had something to do with the pandemic or whatever, but irregardless, it doesn't matter why they're reading a lot, but they are. There were so many kids involved in this meeting and this actual festival. So it was really cool. And just to let you guys know that the work release inmates are back working on the weekends. So if you see them on the streets cleaning up, last week they started on Heacock up in District 2, and they did an amazing job. So our folks have to supervise those guys, and they did an amazing job. So very glad that they're back, actually. So, and I too, just like Councilmember Cabrera, met with some neighbors up in District 2 regarding a neighborhood watch. And what the best part of that was, there was about 35 neighbors there at this meeting, and it just shows that they want to get involved and they care about their community. So we're going to do a follow-up meeting with the PD to drive around and kind of highlight some of the areas in which they were concerned about. So that's happening very soon, within the next week or two. So that's cool. And you know, on the JPA and another board or commission that I'm on, what I've realized that Moreno Valley is a huge asset to this area, and we're building relationships with those folks, the city of Paris, county of Riverside, city of Riverside, and Moreno Valley, and it's pretty amazing on the stuff that we can accomplish when we come together, and that's happening. So, and I'm very honored to be part of that. And the last thing I have is the support again for the Ukrainian people. I do have family from Poland, and it's disheartening to see what's going on over there. So continue to pray for them, and we're honored to honor them with lighting up the M in their flag colors, their country colors. So God bless them, and I would ask you guys to be kind to one another. And I know I say that every time, but I truly mean it. If you go out of your way to be kind, it's going to be contagious. So be kind to one another, and that's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Delgado, and I share those comments with you as well. With the Ukrainian people, it's been very disheartening of what's been going on there, the innocent folks as well. And so our prayers go out to the people of Ukraine, and I can want to actually thank Councilmember Delgado because he did send out that request to me to light the M. And so, you know, thank you, Councilmember Delgado, for doing that, you know, in memory of Ukraine and the folks that are out there as well. I do want to mention that I'm going to have a virtual town hall meeting tomorrow, scheduled on March 2nd at 5:30 p.m. If you go to the moval.org website, or if you go to our City of Moreno Valley Facebook page, you can click on the link to register. And I'll be taking questions from homelessness to everything that's going on in our city, and trying to address those concerns. And please know that if we don't get to your question, one of the things that we do is I will follow up with your question. So if you leave a comment, I will reach out to you to address that concern. Do want to mention that we had, unfortunately, someone at the Marsh Joint Powers Authority that passed away. Her name is Dolores D. And I think it's Megerson. Is that how you say it, Councilmember Delgado?
Yeah, that's correct.
Megerson, okay. She is a very long time employee. On February 9th, 2022, I'd like to close the meeting in her honor from Councilmember Delgado's request. On February 9th, 2022, Dolores lost her life suddenly to illness. She started with the March JPA in July of 2002 and was scheduled to retire next week, Monday, February 28th. She would have turned 65 years old the following day, March 1st. She and her husband are longtime residents of Moreno Valley since 1987 and had been married over 40 years. She was a big proponent of the work that the JPA did at March and was one of the biggest personalities in the office. As you know, March JPA is such a small agency, so the loss has hit home for many of the staff there. Dolores, or also known as Dee, is survived by her husband, 2 children, and 4 grandchildren. One of her kids with their family reside in the city of Paris. Thank you, and we'll go ahead and close the memory in Dolores D. Megerson's name. Thank you all, and stay safe out there. Take care.